You're listening to Dodge Movie Podcast. Your hosts are Christy and Mike Dodge, the founders of Dodge Media Productions. We produce films and podcasts, so this is a podcast about films. Join them as they share their passion for filmmaking.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Dodge Movie Podcast. This is episode number 62. We're going to be talking about the film State and Maine, a favorite of Michael's as he was preparing to direct his own short film, correct?
That is correct. Walt Price is something of a role model.
This film is written and directed by David Mamet. It has a huge cast. In fact, it won a handful of awards for Best Ensemble Cast. It stars Philip Seymour Hoffman, William H Macy, Alec Baldwin, Sarah Jessica Parker, our own SJP, Rebecca Pidgeon, which you maybe wouldn't recognize that name, but she is the wife of the writer-director, Clark Gregg, Julia Stiles, Charles Durning, and Patti LuPone, my favorite.
Where was this in Julia Stiles' career? This must have been early on.
Quite early, I would say. Yes. Notable crew, Alec Baldwin was the EP, and there is kind of a little gag in the credits about associate producers. And I guess there's a line and it says, if you want to know who the associate producers are, ask and we'll send you the list. Because apparently they were handing them out left and right.
There was actually a point during pre-production of Second Story where I made that joke that I'd give an associate producer credit to someone.
Oh, after seeing this film, or are you just on your own?
It was after seeing this film.
Oh, okay. This film came out in the year 2000, and its synopsis is a movie crew invades a small town whose residents are all too ready to give up their values for showbiz glitz. And I should make a point to say that all of these synopses for our movies and a lot of the information that I get is from imdb.com, as well as I use rottentomatoes.com, sometimes the wiki of each movie, and I use Box Office Mojo for the numbers, and I use a website called numbers.com, but it's kind of hit and miss. So
I believe that IMDb is now part of the Bezos Borg.
It is.
I remember when it first came out and it was mind-blowing. I was like, this is what the internet was made for.
Yeah. I just want to give credit where credit is due. That is where I find
nice attribution.
All of my information. Let's see. The tagline for this film, there was 3 that were listed on imdb.com. Lock your windows, hide your daughters, say your prayers.
Oh dear.
That's scary. This film has some cringe, so there's a cringe warning.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Yes. When a film crew came to Waterford, Vermont, they shot first and asked questions later.
That's a nice callback we can talk about.
And big movie, small town, huge trouble.
I don't know. I like that.
Yeah. I think the taglines were supposed to be more like phrases, right? Mm-hmm. Not like a full sentence.
Yeah.
That's what the synopsis is for.
It's like advertising.
So a little bit of trivia. I was always drawn to the Patti LuPone trivia, and this was once again from IMDb. The Tony Award-winning actress Patti LuPone plays acid-tongued wife of the mayor George Bailey, portrayed by Charles Durning. And she was quoted as saying, because she has worked with Mamet since the 1970s, and she called the picture an affectionate skewering of the movie business. We do this because we love the business, and to see it portrayed in this way is a loving tribute. Then to see the actors who signed on was incredible. That's her quote. Another little bit of trivia that caught my eye was in an interview with the New York Times, the writer-director David Mamet said he loves the music business and sometimes it frustrates and enrages me, but also exhilarates me. And I think what this reminded me of is sitting in film school, all of us creatives would get into the creative process and we would be frustrated by what quote unquote Hollywood would do or decisions they would make. Or as much as a lot of my classmates loved the Marvel movies, they also were kind of like with a chagrin because, they are the only ones getting made, not indie films. And our professors had to remind us that it is show business.
Yeah, I think actually we've talked a little bit about this before, but art, I think, does need some constraints, right? Left to their own devices, directors would make 4-hour movies, right?
Right.
So sometimes it's good to have something, and maybe it doesn't have to be the advertising department aren't telling you that it can't be that long. But I think there can be good that comes out of some constraints, budget constraints, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that can be taken to an extreme. But I think this film kind of shows I don't know if I would necessarily business part, but the growing pains, the birthing pains of giving birth to this piece of art.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So kick us off, Mike. What's our pickup line?
Doc, those pills that you gave me for my back, I'm not sure they work.
This was a running gag that I don't really feel like I got the payoff that I thought it would.
Right. You mean the doctor?
The doctor was seen throughout the film interacting with different townspeople, and they would talk to him about some advice he had given them. And I thought, comedy comes in threes, so I figured the third one would be some big gag. And
well, I like the doctor's line, you should never trust someone who wears a bow tie. And they're like, Doctor, you're wearing a bow tie.
He was wearing a bow tie.
Yeah. Now, we rarely get this, but I did capture the parting shot, as I call it, the last line of the film.
Yes.
And it's, can we get a crate of donuts for the Teamsters? Which I actually think is right on brand for this film,
yes,
right?
Yes.
They've wrapped, and Walt is rewarding the cast and crew.
Yes. You often are indebted as the writer-director to the people that came to show up, because you're passionate about this story and you kind of can't believe why anybody else would be. So I think...
Yeah. So at one point in time, I heard Ron Howard say that the director is the protector or the keeper of the story. And I might actually use a slightly different word, shepherd, right? The story is this cute little lamb that it can't survive on its own. And your job is to provide it what it needs so that it can grow up and have this happy and healthy life. But you're protecting it from the world around it. And you need those people to help you usher this delicate, fragile little creature into the world.
Yeah, totally. So I want to talk about the acting, since we do have this huge ensemble cast.
Oh, yeah. Good actors.
The film opens up and we meet Clark Gregg, who we now know from the aforementioned Marvel series.
That's right.
Marvel's
He was Agent Coulson in some of the movies and then in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so he is obviously like a council member, and he has set his sights on, I believe, like higher office, maybe even being a representative of the state or something. Mm-hmm. And so he's very involved in the town politics. And just what plays out in that first scene is a lot of exposition that tells us not only kind of who he is, and then his girlfriend comes in, and so we kind of see, and she's portrayed by, is it Rebecca Pidgeon?
Yeah, the director's wife.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to keep referring to her that way, though. And so it just sets up that this is like a quaint little town, and the biggest kind of problem in the town, I believe it was a pothole that they were all kind of fighting over.
So that's a great sight gag.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that the pothole affected cars in both lanes. So
I noticed that as well.
That was either a pothole that was as large as a ditch, or I don't know, maybe it was across the yellow line. But it was also amazing that none of the vehicles appeared to attempt to make any movements to avoid it.
Nope. Just ran right through it.
But it's all in the background. Speed. This is my kind of humor. It's in the background of the shot.
Yes, yeah. So that it's like very good show, don't tell. Or, well, I guess they were telling. But if you're paying attention, you get to see the personalities of the different people as well as the exposition. You get to see that this is a quaint little town. Everybody kind of knows everybody. Everybody's probably in everybody's business. And then Hollywood just kind of embarks on it. And in a way, it's like this bucolic, innocent, sweet, almost bordering saccharine. And now these Hollywood assholes basically
right.
are going to show up, which brings me to my next point is Alec Baldwin plays an asshole or
what?
And so he's just this very stereotypical, thinks his poop doesn't stink, and he's
a sex addict.
Yes. And he's fled a previous set of a small town where he took advantage of this is where it gets cringe, because I believe
so early on, Walt Price, the director, is talking to what I have determined is the line producer, and he says, we can't ever go back to New Hampshire, which is where they were, and they had built the set. So they used all of their budget to build the set, and the film is called The Old Mill, and this is the Old Mill set. This is it. This is what the whole film is about. And they have to leave it behind because of Bob, played by Alec Baldwin, Bob's misdeeds in that town. And as the film goes on, I don't know if they ever directly say it, but it becomes obvious that they had to leave New Hampshire for the same reason that he got into trouble with Julia Stiles' character in This Little Town.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. And then, so then we have Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is the writer of the script, The Old Mill. And there's a point when he just becomes disillusioned because it's almost like, even though you can tell he's been around these people, it's the moment that he realizes that he's completely sold out, that Hollywood has taken over his film, and the core of his film and what he loves about, or his script, has just been, I don't want to keep using the word taken or stolen, but it's no longer his.
To me, that's when they get to the town and there's no old mill remaining.
Uh-huh.
The other old mill had burnt down. And Walt Price, the director, says to him, does it have to be an old mill?
Right.
And the title of the film is The Old Mill,
yeah.
right? And so you can see, Philip Seymour Hoffman did a great job on the acting. You can just see his hope crushed.
Oh, I mean, I turn to you because, hindsight, we now know that he's passed. And I just thought, oh my God, this is why he killed himself. Because he is a great actor. He is portraying just the sorrow and the just like stolen wind out of his sails.
Right. He crumples.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
I get that. Which is, by the way, why I'm not sure how I could do to have someone else make my film. If I wrote it and someone else made it,
yeah,
I could imagine that would feel like a kick in the plums.
And we know from our obsession with the filmmaking process is generally the writer's not allowed on set, probably for this very reason, because you have some writers who would raise holy hell if you started changing very vital parts of their movie or their script.
Which I suppose if you don't want your script changed, you have to be the director, right? You have to be a writer-director.
Exactly. Is there any other acting that stood out to you?
Well, there's quite a bit of interesting portrayal there. I would love to say that it was entirely acting. I just don't know the actors very well. I think both Alec Baldwin and Sarah Jessica Parker epitomized their kind of caricatures of the leading man and the leading woman very, very well. And you see her kind of with her histrionics and her attempts to manipulate the writer to get certain things into the screen. And then him with basically his philandering throughout the entire cast, crew, town, state, right? Again, I think they did a very good job. In particular, Alec Baldwin is so charming, right?
Yes.
And it was believable that he would basically be able to continue getting away with this. But there's an actor, I hope I don't get his name wrong, David Mamet, who plays the producer. And he's kind of the bad cop to Walt Price's good cop.
Right.
And I think both of those, William H. Macy and that actor, did their roles just spot on, pitch perfect. Now, obviously, they've worked in the industry, so they had a lot of material to draw from. But I felt like they really landed that. I loved how William H. Macy had this long-suffering kind of hangdog look of the director he is going to make this film, right? Come hell or high water.
Right.
And just what does it take to get that next shot? And that's why I love that pillow, by the way. It's just awesome.
What pillow?
His pillow that says shoot first, ask questions afterward.
Right.
Because that's his approach, right? Just get the next shot.
Yeah, you hadn't mentioned it, so I wanted you to.
Oh, thanks. Doing the listeners a favor.
Yeah. They're like, what pillow? Thank you for asking, Christy. So under my cinematography tag on my notes, I have archery indoors. When they walk into
This is incredible.
This seems dangerous. In the
I think it is.
Like old inn that they're all staying in, somebody, I think is it Walt, walks over, gets a bow, gets an arrow, and just shoots out of screen, out of range. So I have no idea where this arrow went. But then we see that over on the wall, near the, what's it called? The checkout where you check in, the counter.
The front desk, maybe you would call it.
Yes, the front desk. That's where the target is. Like, this seems very dangerous.
And there are holes in the wall around the target.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah. So that was really, in my opinion, quite a non sequitur. I'm not sure where that came from, but it was fun.
Yeah. Let's see. And then I love the cinematographer with the lens around his neck, and he's wearing the black jacket. And I believe he's wearing even like a beret or something. Like he just looks, he's got he looks like Mitch Miller for anybody over the age of,
I think he went
50.
Australian cowboy, if I recall correctly. He had a duster, and I think he had like a black Man from Snowy River kind of hat on.
Oh, okay. I guess we
But
were
he had
watching
boots
two
as
different
well.
movies.
Okay, so one of us misremembered this. I think we watched the same film. I'm pretty sure.
And then I wrote down, and I need to be more descriptive in my notes because we watched these like about 2 weeks before we record them. So my memory is failing me. That I said, you get the script supervisor award. There was something that you recognized.
Oh, I know exactly what it is.
Okay.
So the central kind of setup for this film is that they have to move locations and they have to go to a new town. And there's a scene where Philip Seymour Hoffman slams a dog-eared old copy of the script up on the window in his first day in the town, and it has the new town's name on the front page of the script, and it would be the old town's name.
Right. There actually is, maybe that is the scene. In the trivia, there's something about the script, and they said it's the actual script.
That would make sense to me.
Yeah. So, okay. Is there anything about the cinematography of this film that you enjoyed?
First of all, Oliver Stapleton is a cinematographer, so shout out to him. He has a bunch of work, but including, I think he wrote some stuff for IMDb, if I recall correctly, to circle back around to our earlier conversation. There's a really interesting shot where when Carla is first alone with Bob, the window light makes a stripe that just goes right across her eyes, almost like a domino mask. It was an interesting
You
effect.
love it when that happens.
I do.
You have mentioned that more than once.
And I mean, there are great catch lights throughout the film, but I also noticed there is lamplight across Anne's eyes when she's in her shop with Joe during the rainstorm. So there is a lot of attention paid to lighting the eyes. So yes, thumbs up from me.
You like that?
I do.
All right. Under my writing category, I have some stuff we already talked about. Here I have the director is very hostile to the writer. Get out of here.
Right.
Which is usually the case. And then I wrote the writer isn't usually on set. Oh, can we talk about the misogyny in the film?
Sure, that's one of the things we could talk about. Absolutely. I put that, by the way, there are several entries in the could not be made today category,
Okay.
I think, related to this misogyny.
So I have in quotes, catch the broad at the airport.
Right.
William H. Macy uses that term. Does he use it for all women or just Sarah Jessica Parker's character?
Just Sarah Jessica Parker's character.
He refers to her as the broad or
Right.
that broad.
Yeah. He also uses a phrase never heard before or since, like dikes and dogs. And I don't think he was talking about water restraining earthenwork.
Right.
And Marty calls her a bimbo and babe.
So it's not just William H. Macy that kind of treats.
No. And there's some other stuff that's a little also sketchy. Doug calls somebody a Heb, which is, short for Hebrew. It's a Jewish
which
slur.
Is
And then
term of
Walt
endearment.
says, and again, I gotta think this is common in Hollywood that Mamet didn't put this in here just out of nowhere, but he refers to something as faggy without being homosexual.
Yeah.
And in 2000,
Not
I'm
cool.
surprised that
We
line was
weren't-
in there.
They weren't woke yet.
Well, 2000? Okay, maybe not.
I know.
But
I know it's disappointing. Now,
I think it's realistic, but it's kind of rough to watch in that sense.
It is now to watch. You're
Yeah.
totally right. I cringed when he said that because
But, and this is a great question, is to what degree have movie sets changed? Hopefully a lot, but maybe not as much as we would think.
I would hope that they have. I mean, I would love to be, but I just don't know if I'm being naive to say, yeah, I think they definitely have.
Right.
So under costuming, though, I love and I want a t-shirt that says, and it was a couple crew members that were wearing
two
it.
of them.
Does it have to be an old mill?
Oh, that's so great.
And it was so like meta, but that is something that the crew would do. And I've heard of different crews kind of, because what was it? Were we watching a movie? Or no, maybe I was just reading the trivia. There was this scene like 181. Oh no, I think it was in the Shonda Rhimes book I was reading. Anyway, it was like crew members made t-shirts that said, I survived scene 18
Right.
or something. And it's because it took like almost a month. It was some massive scene.
Yeah, I don't think it was Shonda Rhimes, but I do remember us talking about that.
Okay.
Right.
So we watch so many different things that we can never
It's difficult.
remember. But anyway, so that's accurate because I think when everybody collectively comes together and kind of gets through a big task, it is kind of like a celebration and seems t-shirt worthy.
Well, when you said that it was realistic even though it was made for that t-shirt, I immediately, in my mind's eye, I could see costume designer Miriam having that t-shirt on the film. Right?
Absolutely.
She has a sense of humor to pull that off. And I think that's part of it is you have to have that sense of humor to get through it. So I heard a First AC said all films have the same 3 stages. They have, hey, I like all you guys. And then, hey, I hate all you guys. And then, hey, I love all you guys.
Yep.
And you have to go through, I think, almost the childbirth pain to go through. And then hopefully you end up as a little family, dysfunctional as it may be.
That's what I say all the time. We're a family, but we're the most dysfunctional family. Any set I've been on, because you end up like, it's a non-traditional job. It's not like something you go and you clock in at 9 o'clock and you leave at 5. Like things run over. You sometimes are in different locations. Something breaks and you're all kind of sitting around, but then now you got to hurry. And so it's just this, and there's so many moving parts and it's a wild ride. But yeah, but then you love it. Like he said, it makes me angry. What did he say? It enrages me, it excites me, and it thrills, just that is, it's so true. So let's see. Do you have anything else about the film that you want to talk about? Because there's one little thing I want to talk about before we go into our little segments that we do.
Well, one of the reasons I love this film is the Walt Price character. And he has a great line in here, one of my favorite all-time movie lines. It's not a lie, it's a gift for fiction. And you watch him, he delivers that as part of, he is just tap dancing and spin doctoring and trying to get things done. But the reason that he doesn't come across to me as a manipulative evil character is because he just wants the film to be made. So maybe that's, a gray area, but to me, it seems he's ultimately a likable character because his motives are pure. He's just trying to get you through whatever it is, the problem, to get to the next thing. And they show him, he's reviewing costume, which is apparently not particularly done very much anymore. Speaking of costume designer Miriam, I had a conversation about that at length. But then he has to pick a horse. They have to figure out how to shoot this without an old mill. There are all these challenges, and he's just trying to get through that. And to me, that is kind of, he's the hero of this film to me. But maybe that's a writer-director talking, right? Now the director, he's the most important guy.
No, but I see what you're saying.
Right. And he shepherds this again, helpless little creature, and he gets it to the end. And that's, so I don't think maybe if you haven't been as part of that process, that final scene when they wrap the last shot, that sense of relief, right, was palpable. Obviously the cast and crew knew that feeling, and they communicated it on screen. So to me, this is really a love letter to the directors of the world.
Yes, I would say so. And I think you're right. He is our hero, even though the aforementioned the broad, get that broad.
Exactly.
I did like him. I did feel like he did care about all of his people, kind of, and even if it was in a kind of disturbing way. He did care about all his cast and crew and the story. You're absolutely, because I think he cared for Philip Seymour Hoffman too. He was trying to make him be okay that they were completely changing. He understood, I know this was your baby and I know you're in pain because we're changing it and I'm sorry.
Right.
But it's all for the greater good.
Maybe that in a microcosm is when Sarah Jessica Parker's character, I think her name is Claire, is having a freak out in the bathroom, and he says to the first AD, get her some flowers, and he says, well, we don't have any more. And he just looks at me, he's like, well, just take the ones out of the vase and put cellophane around them.
Yeah.
And it's not because, it's just he wants
he's
her to have...
He's a problem solver.
Right. He wants her to have new flowers, and this guy says, well, I can't get you new flowers. And he's like, no, you can. They're right over there.
Yeah.
He's trying to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I thought it was a great...
Yeah.
That was a funny gag.
And it's out of love.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So we got some new smoochy stickers, and a few of our big fans got them already, but I want to offer to any of our listeners, there is a cameo, an uncredited cameo.
This is awesome.
Of a big star from a TV show in the 90s. He went on to direct a very scary film that was so good it got a sequel.
Ooh.
And if somebody will email me at Christy@DodgeMediaProductions.com with that correct answer without looking at IMDb.
Honor system here, folks.
I will send you a smoochy sticker.
And you'll get a virtual high five
Absolutely.
Unless you show up in person, then I'll high five you in person.
There you go. So that the gauntlet has been dropped. It's not a huge gauntlet, but there you go. Did we have any head trauma?
Well, we had implied head trauma when Bob crashes the station wagon whilst drunk.
Oh, yes.
With Julia Stiles in it with him. They both appear to take knocks to the head. They have visible damage to their forehead.
Yes, I would agree. That is not implied, but I mean, I know, I see what you're saying. Like, we didn't see it on camera, but the results were seen later.
Right. And it's amazing that there would be a stunt that much in a Mamet film, right? You don't really think of him as like Michael Bay with lots of stuff, but they actually did. They flipped that car.
Wow. All right, to the big segment. Was there a smooch?
Smoochy, smoochy, smoochy. Oh, there were several smoochies. So the first one that we see is when Carla leaves Bob's hotel room, there's a smooch. There's an almost smoochy outside Anne's store with Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, but then the local cop has a real block there. And then Anne and Joe smooch at 1:39:32 outside the courtroom as Doug recants his statement.
Right.
Which, by the way, the Doug character, I think, in some sense, shows what can happen with the film, because ultimately he's corrupted by the film.
Yeah.
They basically buy him off.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So I know you have a driving review.
Right. Well, there's not a whole lot of driving and review in here, but there's a very important one, kids. Don't drink and drive, even in a 1988 Mercury Grand Marquis station wagon, but especially not with an underage girl as a passenger.
Right.
That's just much, much worse.
Yes. And wear your seatbelt.
Wear your seatbelt. Don't drink and drive. Also, go ahead and swerve around potholes, folks. You know, the steering wheel is a great tool. Just go ahead and give it a swirl, because you can pop the bead off of your tire there, and now you'd have a bigger problem. So don't drive through the pothole. Drive around the pothole.
And city workers, please fix the potholes.
Yes, you can't always rely on people like Ron Swanson to fill it for you. So let's go ahead and get that done, city.
Right. All right. So we go to the numbers.
Let's go to the numbers.
Okay. Let's see. Like I said, this came out in the year 2000. It got a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb. I did not look up the Rotten Tomatoes. I could not find the budget for this one, but it domestically made just shy of 7 million, and worldwide it made 9 million. So I don't know, depending, the cast is where you're going to spend a ton of money. So I have no idea.
So credit to Mamet, he didn't actually have to build an old mill, so all that money could go into the actors. Yeah.
Good one, Mike. It was filmed actually in Massachusetts, even though it was set in Vermont. It was filmed in Malden and Manchester by the Sea and Dedham and Waltham and Beverly and Gloucester.
Wow. That's a lot of different locations.
Yeah, in Massachusetts. It's an hour and 45 minutes. It's rated R, and it's labeled as a comedy drama, a dramedy. We watched this one on Apple. It did cost us $2.99. Stay tuned, because next week we are going to be talking about a movie called The Player, and I don't have in front of me where we watched it, but it'll be on our social media. So check that out. And as always, thank you for listening and reviewing and following us on our social media on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And never forget,
Dodges never stop, and neither do the movies.
Thanks for listening to Dodge Movie Podcast with Christy and Mike Dodge of Dodge Media Productions. To find out more about this podcast and what we do, go to dodgemediaproductions.com. Subscribe, share, leave a comment, and tell us what we should watch next. Dodges never stop, and neither do the movies.